Did Arsenal win 4-0 because I'm back? Yes. Yes, they did. This is the Arsenal Vision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot Smith, on Twitter. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Arsenal Vision Podcast. I am sometimes the host, Elliot Smith. It's nice to meet you. And I am the reason Arsenal won 4-0 yesterday. That's right. I think it is only fair to blame the blip in Arsenal's form on Phil Costa. He knows what he did, and he will apologize for it. He will, someday. I think the problem is when you have a tall host, it doesn't work. You need someone a little lower to the ground who can feel what's happening. I can feel the tremors in the earth. It is great to be back. I am thrilled to be here. I do want to say
O'Brien wants a word, by the way.
Conan O'Brien. Well, you know what? Conan O'Brien and I can't have a word because I can't hear anything he says. It's too far from my ears. But I do want to thank Phil. He's wonderful. He will be on again many, many times, both as host and as contributor. But you are stuck with me. And let me tell you, tomorrow, if you are a patron, you are getting the legendary episode we call the Predictatron. That's right. It's time. It's time for our predictions. If you don't want to watch the games, and I can understand why you wouldn't because I've heard Arsenal are quite boring, you can just listen to the Predictatron episode and know the results of the City and Arsenal games and where we're going to finish in the league, which is top, by the way, but you'll see by how many points. So Predictatron tomorrow. Saliba50 is the code if you want 50% off the first month of the Arsenal Vision Patreon. And you can hear all the results before they happen because we're notoriously accurate in our predictions. So that is going to be fun. We will focus in on certain games and certain themes. We are going to talk today about a lot of very interesting themes, including Saka on the interior, something I've been calling for a while. Surprisingly, not something Clive had thought up. And I'll ask him why he hadn't thought of that previously on this episode. We love you. If you want to come see us in Dallas, please do. We'll be there this weekend. Paul and I doing a pod, watching the NLD at Cosm Dallas. You can go to our website, ArsenalVisionPodcast.com. Click on the Dallas thing. It gives you all the information. We got a promo code you can go for free. Okay. 1 minute, 58 seconds of nonsense from me. It feels good to be back. And here with me is the man you've already heard from. His name is Tim. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
And Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello, hello.
Hello, indeed. Clive, quickly, any particular reason why you didn't think of Saka on the interior as an idea, something that I have discussed at length previously, or no?
No, I just wish I'd have thought of it sooner. But to be honest,
It's okay.
I'm not the only one that's ever said it. But hey, look, it's one of those things.
We got to get him on the blower to Mikel. He's got all these good ideas. Just got to get him on Mikel's staff. See, that's the thing. He's got Gabriel Heinze. He's got the defensive coaches. He just needs to add Clive to the staff. And then it's trebles and quads all the way down. The quad is still on. I want to ask you, Tim, the FA Cup. It's fun. The cups are fun. The league is not. Scott has posted phenomenal data. I'll try to get a link or something to the chart. He showed that open play XG is down for 16 of 17 Premier League teams this season. The league is a slog. The teams know how to defend. The defensive talent is good. The structures are good. And so it is a bit of a street fight in the league. But the cups, whether it's been Europe or the League Cup or this cup, have been fun. How nice is it to have days like this to remind us that winning the quad could be fun and that Arsenal have some talented footballers?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a real palate cleanser, hasn't it? Like even the Champions League has been as well. And I was thinking about this actually as well with from the point of view of Wigan. I imagine, even though they got a bit of a beating, I imagine they found this a bit of a palate cleanser. They're fighting relegation from League One. They've just changed their manager. In fact, they made a new appointment today. They've had a rough time as a club with ownership and loads of failed management appointments, including Kolo Touré, actually. So I imagine they kind of found it as a little bit of a palate cleanser as well, a little bit of a, we might get done 4-0 today, which happens to us quite regularly, but at least it won't really matter this time. And I think in particular in the FA Cup, the draws have allowed us to do that so far as well, which is different to what it's been like the last couple of years. This is the first time we've got beyond the fourth round since we won it. And actually, if you look at the draws we've been getting, we've just had rotten luck. So we're due Mansfield at home, Port Vale at home, quarter-final, Wrexham semi-final. I was going to say some bunch of no hopes like Tottenham in the final, but they're not in it anymore. So
you're also just showing off now. We get it. You have a great memory. Move on.
we're due a bit of a run, but like, yes, definitely this fell, and like I think the lineup played into that as well. I think we'll get into this. I think it was a bit funkier and freer than it might have been had we not had so many injuries in a specific area. I don't think it would have been this kind of hair down, but it was, and that contributed to a really fun game. Well, a really fun first half, definitely.
I like letting my hair down. Clive, I'm sure you do as well. So, so
All right.
all right. So you get there, you're at the Emirates, it's wet, it's gross. I hear it's just been torrential rain nonstop in London, so that's all fun. And unfortunately, the women's game was washed out, actually, waterlogged pitch. So not a fun time to be on Old Blighty. But this was an interesting pre-match moment because it looked like we were going to get Myles Lewis-Skelly in midfield, which we were excited about. But we upgraded from the excitement of Myles Lewis-Skelly in midfield to Bukayo Saka in midfield. So you're there, you see it's going to be Myles in midfield. Then the swap, Calafiori out, Myles to left back, Saka to midfield. Talk me through that moment when the news came through and how eager you were to see this experiment, something you have been, all jokes aside, talking about for a while.
Yeah, it took a while to work out, to be honest. I kept thinking we might have 12 players on the pitch. What's happened? You know, 'cause,
Wigan might have thought that as well for a while there.
Honestly, I was searching around for the player that wasn't there, and then I worked out as Calafiori, and I thought, okay, let's see. And then they lined up, and you see where Saka standing. You think, oh, here we go. Let's have a bit of fun, really. And yeah, it was fun. It was complete fun, and you know. The last game, Sunderland was pretty good as well, the home game I went to. So I didn't go to Brentford. That sort of stayed in people's minds. That was a little bit more tense. But Brentford are good, right? And that's going to happen. But what I will say is the way I sort of look at a pitch, I said it before, but it's going to be relevant for the conversation we're going to have later. If you almost envisage two circles, one inside the other, and a line down the middle, and your outer line is your exterior, and your inner sort of circle is your interior, and the line down the middle tells me where people should be. For example, Eze, for me, is better on the left-hand side of that line, down the middle of the pitch.
100%.
Yeah, and it's been clear from any time you watch him. And then I have these little theories in my head about how a team should look. And I believe in brains and brawn. So brains should be in the interior of the pitch, and the brawn should be on the exterior. It's almost like you're protecting your queen on the interior. Zone 14, you protect it with muscles and power and running power. But your brain should be in the inside where decision time is lessened and you need that intelligence to understand what to do next, right? So Saka for me is our most intelligent player and has been for a while. You know, his decision making is his number one thing that he does well. Obviously, he's got great acceleration and carrying skills, but when he does it, the decision making on the end of it is really what he does so well. So the potential for him to play inside has always been there. It's never been a rush. But then you think about what's happened to him in the last year or so. And he's had a major injury, which, let's be honest, has affected him physically. And then you look at how difficult it is to play centrally now. But he has something which is unique to him, which is basically he's got wardrobe legs, right? You kick the wardrobe and he can't get it off him. So he has that ability to protect the ball and then make decisions from it. So the future is there. We've got another winger that's actually quite good in Madueke. We've also got, I know people are going to giggle a little bit, but don't giggle. It won't take long. We've got a 16-year-old coming into our squad, which will start in wide areas in Max Dowman, because that's what you do with a younger player. So suddenly you look to the future and think, this has got a bit of legs to it. You know, it has. And where football is going, back to your XG numbers, where football is going, it's like saying, okay, it's really hard to do things in the interior. So you need your special talents maybe closer to the goal. This is not a complete surprise. It's just an option. But it could be an option that we look into a lot more in the future. And it makes a lot of sense. If you want to critique Arteta, Elliot, my biggest critique, or maybe biggest shame, in the 3 seasons where we didn't win the league, the one season where we could have won the league, was when I think it took us too long to define our attack. You know, and when we defined it, we kind of have a centre forward. That was the year that we finished 2 points off. That's the year that we dropped for me. I don't want that to be this year. I know Tim did a great unmark last week talking about our attack. I think this is it for us. Defining our attack to platform the best players we have. Is that the season? I think it could be. Because the other departments are in shape, but that we can have a debate right now what our best attack looks like and who should stand where. And I'm not sure what we'd all agree.
Yeah, and it's great to have this much talent and this many options. But as you've been talking about on your Unmarked episode that both you and Tim did, and as we've talked about throughout the season, understanding, to your point, Clive, how to define those options into something that is a consistent, high-performing group in the attack is an interesting one to solve. And look, I get it. Defending is the bedrock of what we do, but I think there is an argument to be made that if you have Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Declan Rice, the best ball recovering midfielder in world football, you can take more risk. You can be a little bit more open. You can play Eza off the left if you want, even if you think he leaves you a little vulnerable, because trust the talent behind them to recover for you. If you say to me, we're going to just play slightly more open games, who do you trust to handle that? The opposition's players that are defending, or ours with Saliba, Gabby, Timber, Declan Rice? I trust ours. And so I think we can play a little bit more like this. And I remember, Clive, I think you had a social media post once upon a time, a few years back, when you were looking at Liverpool, and you said, what Liverpool do is they just pass forward. And it was such an elegant distillation of the point. You know what we did in this game? We just passed forward. Eza, back foot recovery, turn face, pass forward. Norgaard, pass forward. We lost the ball sometimes. I trust the players we put behind the ball to fix that when it happens. So I'm really excited to see us able to do that more. And Tim, I guess it is a good way to break into the Eza discussion. Maybe we'll come back to Saka in midfield, because I do want to just mention that Mikel Arteta said on Saka in midfield, that's something that's a possibility, and I wanted to try it, and we might use it in the future. There are still so many games, competitions, and different scenarios to play this season, and that's a possibility that we have. So let's get to Eberechi Eza, because there's always going to be a desire to analyze football through the lens of the level of the competition, and that's only fair. You should beat a bottom of League One side comprehensively, and your talented technical players should look good. But even in this game, I think you saw the range of Eza in the sense that sometimes he tries things that don't come off, tries things that don't come off, and he loses the ball. And that's when you have to trust what's strong about your team behind him to recover it. But the reason you want him getting on the ball and trying things is for the payoff that you saw in this game. So how do you evaluate, other than just their weaker opposition, as his ability to find those pockets of space, collect the ball, and play forward brilliantly for both of the goals that he created?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting here, there are two big caveats that are attached to this whole podcast and this whole game. One is, as Paul would christen the Crapatron, the level of the opposition. And the second one is, how much was Arteta genuinely having a look at some things, and how much was it Havertz, Marino, Erdegaard were all out, didn't want Rice. I don't even think Rice warmed up from what I could see. Zubimendi got 20 minutes. There were players who were on the bench who he wanted to keep in their jackets, like Gabriel and Rice. So that's quite a lot of players missing. So to what extent was it, do you know what? We're playing a League One side. We've got loads of players missing. Who cares who we play, frankly? Let's have some fun. I'm sure there was definitely an element of that. But what's kind of really interesting about this is, I assume, had the lineup been as is, without Calafiori dropping out, first off, interesting that he didn't put Hincapié in, and which would have been a like for like. And again, that tells me maybe Hincapié might be on the edge of something, might be carrying something. He's another one that didn't come on either, so not sure on whether he warmed up. So clearly there was an intention to keep him away from the game, if possible. So I imagine the original intention was for Lewis-Skelly to play that left central midfield and for Eza to be on the right. But obviously this late rejig puts Eza back towards the left, where I think he's much more comfortable. But long term, that is Declan Rice's area. Like, you're not getting that off him, not in the left eight. But what it also meant, I think even more interestingly, was it meant Eza dropped deeper. So Eza's role changed, and he kind of became the Lewis-Skelly. Now, I imagine Lewis-Skelly would have done this a bit differently, but not much differently, actually. If you look at where Eza receives the ball in this game, what he's so good at protecting and turning. And I know you made this point on the IR, Elliot. He's always wants to play forward, always. If there's a 5% chance I can get face towards goal, I'm going to try and do it. And so he did kind of play the Lewis-Skelly role. And I think back to his best creative moment for Arsenal so far was against Manchester City when he dropped deep and he pings that ball over the top. And it does make me wonder, and I wonder like what Arteta thought looking at that, because that wasn't the plan until about 10 minutes before kickoff. Is that interesting though? Is that not so much about left and right, but maybe can I drop Eze a bit deeper? Can he be my like Zubimendi sometimes if needed? Like, is that an option where he's really good at kind of turning away from pressure and getting us facing forward, and his passing from deep is obviously very, very good. So there's kind of all of that. With Saka, I definitely think he wanted to have a look at that. I don't know if people remember, he did that for the last 10 minutes of PSG at home last season. He brought Nwaneri on and put Nwaneri on the right wing and moved Saka inside. Like, that's Champions League semi-final he's doing that. So that tells me he's curious about it. And that maybe not on like, this is your position forevermore. But as Clive says, if Max Dowman is coming down the track, Nwaneri as well, we've got all these players who like to play in the same space. It's impossible for them all to stay. It's impossible for us to have Erdegaard, Dowman, Nwaneri and Saka, in my view. I don't think that's ever going to work. So, someone's going to fall there. But that tells me he was interested in looking at that, and it looked good, didn't it? I liked it. I think if we're trailing with 15-20 minutes to go in a Premier League game, this is an option. This is definitely an option.
Yeah, he was great, and like the 2 chances he created are brilliant, but like he also took 6 shots, and I get it's Wigan, but like Jesus had 1 shot. Nani had 1 shot. Granted, he scored a goal, right? Martinelli had 3 shots, but 6 shots. Like, he is a player who is just bags of end product, but he had 79 touches. That's the key. He's got to be on the ball to do this stuff, and you've got to give him the license to do things that don't work, because when they do work, they're sensational. Clive, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was just really nice to see the associations between Eze, Saka, and Madueke. I thought the 3 of them, I think it surprised Arteta. And sometimes, for those who've played football, you know what I'm going to say now. When players,
I sure do.
When players know, they know they'd be good together, and they had a chance, and they wanted to style it out, mate. This is what you could win if you play us together, and we can do whatever you like. And they were talking to the manager without a doubt to say, do this again. We put us behind the centre forwards, the 3 of us. Do what you like. Find spaces for us. And this could be the future of our attack. Again, we can have this discussion. If we had an attacking podcast just about attack, it would be a 3-hour job. We'd all have different configurations.
As opposed to our usual 3-hour job.
But back to Tim's point about him looking at this seriously. There were periods in the first half when Saka and Madueke flipped around, and one went inside, one went outside. It looked very natural. People have spoken a lot about us not having an underlapper in that position. Saka underlapped, obviously cut back for the goal. There's a period in the second half when Saka wasn't on the pitch, and Jesus was right wing, and Noni was inside. And I thought, you are looking at this. Not only are you looking at this, you're looking at the rotations available and seeing how Noni would do in crowd scenes. So back to the brains and brawn. I see Noni as brawn. But what do you do on the inside when I need your brains? And I think he was having a look at that, see if he could trust him inside. This was a real opportunity to have a look. It's one of the reasons why I was keen to go. I thought Myles might play in midfield, and I was really excited to see it. It didn't happen, and we got something else, which I think has got more value and longevity, and it looked more serious. It looked like quite serious. And come on, lads, we're all mates here. We need to see our best players closer to the goal. Should we just simplify it? Our best players closer to the goal getting shots. Let's just start with that. But also, there's been buzzwords around centrality, and when you've got people who look after the ball in central areas, you give it to them. When you don't give it to them. Mm-hmm. When Havertz is there, you give it to him. And you give it to Saka, didn't you, all day long? Because he is a reference point. But that reference point, as Arteta said, is now more variable than being on the right wing, ready to be kicked, to have Mikel ever say, get up. So we've had that for 3-4 years, haven't we? So this is really interesting.
Yeah, it really is. Clive, stay with you just for a second. I think the reason this becomes a possibility, though, is that Nani Madueke is a talented player. and he has something to contribute. And I don't think he's as good as Bukayo Saka, obviously. But I think his devastation in 1v1 situations, his acceleration, his ability to create chaos does drag players away. It does move defenses out of shape. Even if he doesn't always get the final ball right or get the end product exactly spot on, he really forces teams out of shape. And I think whether it's a Doku at City, as an example of a player who didn't always get the end product right, but just creates all kinds of chaos and havoc for how teams have to adjust. I think players like that can be really valuable. And that quality, that level that he has gives us the opportunity to look at a Saka off the right, because if Nani wasn't playing at that level or wasn't available, I don't think Saka on the interior would be an option, because you would have to play him on the right. So should we give Nani some credit for creating this kind of potential option for Mikel Arteta through his quality?
Yeah, give him some credit, full stop. Look at the season as a whole. He's come in at a period when Saka went down before the Liverpool game, remember? And we lose him for an international break, and then he comes back and he takes a bit of time to get back to speed. And Nani's come in and done well. Hey, look, he's not a sure thing, but he offers a threat, which means we can still be Arsenal. We can still go into him and we still can do things. And so I like that. Whereas last year we were playing sort of Ethan out there, who's obviously really, really talented, but he's really a midfielder who's got a left foot making that work. Almost like a bounce ball position, then drive inside. Whereas he's far more threatening on the outside, and he's improved in his final ball. So he's allowed us to think about these options, isn't he? We don't have in this discussion if he, if it's, don't mean to pick on him, but if it's Raheem Sterling out there on the right wing, we're saying, when can Saka get out on the right wing? We're not saying, can we play him inside, because the talent wasn't there, So Nani's making us think about different options. And I do like the rotation potential that he offers. I'd like to see him on the left as well. I think he's got great speed. If he can develop a 1-2 off the left-hand side, I think he can do it there as well. And then another day, we'll all fancy him off the left. I think what I'm learning now from this season, maybe more than ever, you play every 3 days and your conclusions are different after every single game. But this little discussion we're having about the future of our attack is an important one, given the injuries that we have and given where the game is telling us where to go. Back to Scott's numbers, no one's scoring more goals, and so we got to think of ways to change that, right? So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. I think I saw, by the way, that this is the first time in FA Cup history, which goes back a way, that a Premier League team has scored 4 goals inside of 30 minutes in an FA Cup tie, which I'm shocked that that's the case, given some of the scorelines we've seen. I mean, City had a 10-goal game in this FA Cup season already, but still pretty good from our team. And I do think in a week where a lot of the discussion is centered around the goal output of our forwards specifically, or the lack of goal output, every one of our starting forwards getting a goal in the first half was just the tonic, right? To turn the volume down on that discussion. Doesn't mean that discussion isn't still relevant, of course, but it turns the volume down on it a little. I think we got out of this game exactly what we needed in some ways, which is goals, flowing football, good performances from players who have been under a bit of scrutiny, and some interesting lineup possibilities that the manager can start to think about as a way to jumpstart an attack that could probably use a little bit of a boost. I do just want to say quickly, as an aside, I noticed this in our community over the last week, as someone who watched it from afar, right, not being on the pods, that there was a lot of debate about what the right intensity of critique and concern should be, given that we are on course for the quad, which we will almost certainly win. And I do think that it is a balance, right? Because on the one hand, we should enjoy the fact that we are top of every competition we're in. It's pretty special. By the same token, we're on a run of 9 points from 18 in the league, where the attack has looked a little bit limp at times. And so I think the anxiety and the critique is certainly warranted. Otherwise, you're just sitting there crossing your fingers the whole season. So an interesting one to keep track of how to measure how good we are, and maybe keeping in mind what I mentioned about Scott's data before, which is simply the league has changed. The cups have shown us how much the league has changed, right? Sure, you can say, well, it's just Wigan, but you can also say it's just Bayern, it's just Inter, it's just Atleti, right? When we've stepped away from the league, we've seen a very different dynamic, and it's been really enjoyable. I think a player that I want to focus on a bit here, Tim, not to just make this completely player-centric, but I think it's worth talking about, is Christian Norgaard. Norgaard has looked really good lately when he's played, and I get that he's played against lesser opposition, having not been trusted as much in the league. But I think if any player can feel he's earned more opportunities to play at a higher level, it would be Christian Norgaard. He was very progressive. He had a beautiful chip ball over the top to Jesus for his goal, obviously. He just seems to have settled in now to feeling confident. He was a captain before he got here. I think the emotion of coming to Arsenal was evident in the video that was shared when he found out he was getting his move. Maybe there was a sense of an imposter syndrome, needing to fit in, needing to find his place, but he really does look like he's fitting in, and he looked brilliant in this game. So I get that it's hard to extrapolate from bottom of League One opposition what you're going to get in a league scenario, but I think he's certainly earned a chance to show what that could be. Do you feel similarly about Norgaard?
Yeah, definitely. I think I think what's kind of surprised me about, I think he's only got 35 minutes in the Premier League so far this season. So first of all, what I'll say is I think generally speaking, this crystallizes one of my ideas that your squad players kind of need to be experienced players. You can't really ask, I don't think it's fair to ask like a 21, 22-year-old or an academy player really to have a role like that. I think the sweet spot is a 31-year-old who is delighted to be at the club and is happy to play that role and has experience and professionalism and everything people have said. I think there was an interview with Leo Trossard this week, and was he asked something about like one of the best trainers or something, and he said Norgaard. Type thing, which actually weirdly really reminds me of that Ramsdale interview I always reference where he talks about Trossard and says he hasn't come to be a squad player, but clearly really, really valued as a character, and I'm sure that played into why they signed him and why they signed him for this role, because let's face it, this role is almost, it's not quite like a coach role, but you're not going to be playing a lot. So like, how are you around the group? How are you on the training ground and all of that? But what's kind of surprised me about not using him that much in the Premier League is we've been in a lot of game states where we're protecting a 1-goal lead. And that's like, I kind of, do you remember we had those shutdown players, didn't we? Used to bring on, we're a goal up, Tomiyasu comes on, for Zinchenko, Jorginho comes on, and so
I'm sorry, I can't help it. All I can picture is the Rob Holding 5-3-2
Rob Holding 5-3-2. I think we went one up from that with like Jorginho, for example. That's a much because that's who he's replaced effectively, right? Bring on Jorginho, 10 minutes to go, keep the ball, no drama type thing. And I think with Norgaard, there was always that question like, how good is he technically? And that may have been a little bit of like a stereotype on our part because he's come from Brentford. He's probably good at tackling and smashing into people and winning headers. And hey, those things are very important to Arsenal as well. We have a lot of players who are very good at doing that. But I think we saw his technical level was pretty high. Obviously, he's played at centre back as well during the Champions League. And so really, like the purpose of this role for this player is be a good guy around the training ground. I know that I don't mean that to sound dismissive. I do think that's important, particularly when you've got a massive squad and you are going to have players who are unhappy. And some of it is, frankly, take minutes away from guys. That's kind of, sometimes you rotate because you want to look at things. Sometimes you rotate because you want Rice and Zubimendi in jackets watching on the bench. And that's kind of been his role. But I think with Merino out in particular, I see a lot of Merino in him, not necessarily in style of player. He's certainly not going to influence the attack like that. But you know how Merino's a bit of a good hand to have in the squad. Good player to start sometimes, good player to bring on. You might not always start him, but there's always a space for him somewhere. And I think if I'm Norgaard, I'm almost auditioning for that role now that Merino's not there. That I'm the guy with the facial hair that you bring on 75 minutes because you need to calm things down and you need to have some men on the pitch to kind of keep it all ticking over. And I think this was, again, opposition aside, I think this was a good audition and not the only one. I haven't looked at him playing any of those cup games and felt he looked out of place.
Yeah, Clive?
Yeah, look really good. I think there's a simplicity to how he plays. It's 1 or 2 touches. And that predictiveness about him means that you get a rhythm, and I think it's really good. And he's looking for that. So as the ball's coming near him, he's looking for his next pass. It sounds very obvious and simple. But then if you keep doing it, you keep playing it 1 and 2 touches, you do get a level of go forward and rhythm to the team. But also in this game, again, for being in the stadium, sometimes you see stuff. He was definitely coaching a lot on the pitch. He was coaching a lot. He was creating the rhythm. But also when you need to slow down, he was saying, slow down, just wait. And it's almost like you can see the manager out there. He very much, and you listen to the interviews, he sounds like the manager. The words he uses, the way he responds to questions. I remember when we got Arteta and Saka, I remember thinking, what we got these players for? Then you get to know them and you get to realise their influence in the dressing room. And look, they're both at the club now, but one's about to leave. And you get these people into your club and you think, crikey, they suit our club. What's his face on this guy? He seems like a special human being. There is nobody that says a bad word about him. And to have the right type of characters in your dressing room are really important. But he can play. In European games he's played well. In these games he's played well. There has been I've got no problem with a midfield three of Zubimendi, Rice and Norgaard on a certain day or for a certain period of a game. And I don't know why we haven't done it more. I don't really care. They're all good players and they all understand the Premier League. Just play them. If that's what the game needs, just play them. Don't worry about it. The way we end up playing like a 5+5 anyway. We all know that now, don't we? 5 at the back, 5 up front. Just decide who's going to be where. But, I like his talent, and so, yeah, good luck. Good. He has been a real surprise. When he signed, we all went, that's interesting. But now, I hope he stays around for a lot longer.
Yeah, well said.
It also reminds me of loads of stuff's come out about Thomas Frank and how obviously the day he leaves, everyone's briefing, all the players hate him and stuff. But there was that story about after the North London derby, Thomas Frank said, you're letting standards slip. And then they all turned up late the next day, including the captain. And I think I read that Spurs were interested in Norgaard in the summer, but there was something about obviously there was some agreement that if a big club comes in for you, we'll let you go for a very small fee. And obviously Tottenham didn't meet that watermark, so Brentford asked for loads of money. But you could totally see why Thomas Frank at Spurs trying to implement what they call the no dickheads policy, why he would have wanted someone like Norgaard. The problem is Tottenham, no dickheads, it's an oxymoron, it's tautology, you can't do it.
Yeah, and I did love, it's almost certainly an apocryphal story, but the story that Thomas, one of the reasons the players didn't like Thomas Frank and why he had to be sacked is he wouldn't shut up about Arsenal being so good. It's almost certainly not true, but in my mind, it is true. And I love it. Tim, I do just want to ask you about the freedom in this game a little bit and, the playing forward, the playing loose. Obviously, there is tightness and there is tension in the league, but in your unmarked, you talked about how the players really looked terrified at 1-0 up against Brentford. And I think we all agree we looked a bit that way when we were 1-0 up against United. And there's no relief from that. The league isn't going to feel less stressful because you beat Wigan 4-0. Do you see anything repeatable, though, or anything that you can identify in the way we played against Wigan and the way we're playing in the Cups that can't be reduced just down to mentality and mindset and tension that we could maybe bring to the Premier League fixtures? And Clive, I'll get your thoughts on this as well. But because it does appear that there are dynamics in our game, and maybe they are just down to opposition quality or the game plan of the opposition. But do you see anything that you'd like to see us maybe bring to the league fixtures that you're seeing in the cup ties?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've kind of touched on it, but you don't have to start this way in every game. Like, you go away to Nottingham Forest, probably don't start Eza and Saka as midfielders, and you could do, but maybe that's something you can do on 60 minutes, to try and break a game open a little bit and show a different face. But even what we were just talking about, if you are 1-0 up at Brentford and everyone's getting the fear and the long throws are coming in, Norgaard, he played there. He captained that team. You need someone to smash into some people, win some headers and stuff like that. Should Norgaard have come on Thursday night? Sometimes as a manager, And I've spoke again on the women's side. I've spoken to managers who've said this before, where they kind of say, ideally, I didn't want to do that, but the players did, so I made a change that meant the players felt more comfortable. So I remember speaking to Jonas about going into a back five once, and he said because they were protecting a 1-goal lead, and he's like, I don't want to do that. It's not the football I want to play. We don't really train it. But there were 10 minutes to go and they collapsed into their box, and nothing I was going to say was going to help that. So I put a big defender on for them so they could do it. And sometimes I think you have to do that. So I think definitely, quote unquote, creatively, rather than just, it does feel to me like sometimes we just throw players on and hope, and that it's not really like a tactical, maybe this player has got this quality that will unlock things. It does feel a bit, let's just go like for like. Let's just put Ezra on for Norgaard. Let's just put Madueke on for Saka. Like, this shows we could potentially do something else creatively. But I'm all for bringing the kind of lockdown subs back. There's a lot of games we win by 1 goal. There's been quite a few 3-2s. I know I keep going on about it over January. And could we have calmed some of those down by bringing a Norgaard on? If Norgaard's on against Bournemouth at 3-1, does Krupi get that long shot off? Maybe he does, I don't know. But do you know what I mean? Like, perhaps introducing a measure of, okay, all the games are tight, all the away games are horrible, the referees never give us anything, blah, blah, blah. Can we use a player like Norgaard more in that respect as well? I think potentially we've found a couple of things, not amazing things, not transformational things, but little margins I think we might have found here, because I think what we all realise is that without Havertz and Merino, those are two very similar players who do quite similar things in terms of linking midfield and attack that we've lost, and we do need to replace somehow.
Yeah, it is interesting too. I'm sort of surprised Norgaard didn't come on against Brentford, because of all the places I think he would have been comfortable coming on, right? It's at the place where he was captain, where he feels comfortable, where it's not an unfamiliar environment. The crowd's certainly not going to be hostile towards him. So it takes almost a little bit of the sting out of it, because it's like, what do you do when a beloved ex-player comes on the pitch? It's hard to really have the vitriol. He didn't leave on bad terms or anything. So like it could have been an interesting lever to pull. Clive, what about you? What are some things we can take from cup performances, or maybe that you saw in this one? Maybe it's Saka on the interiors we discussed, but things in the way we played that maybe are portable to the league performances.
Yeah, Norgaard, Brentford, he should have come on for Odegaard, shouldn't he? That's what should have happened.
After the Odegaard injury, it is frustrating, right? And I don't know how injured he is, but I will simply say he wasn't effective after that. He looked great when he came on. Let's call it like we saw it. After halftime, he injected pace and urgency into our play. He was great, but he got hurt. I get he's captain, and it's tough because he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, right? If you say, I need to come off because I think I have an owie, people say, that's not a captain material. But staying on when you don't have it because your body's not right also doesn't help you. But anyway,
lads. We're Arsenal fans and we're nerds, and we know that this has happened before. He's got a strong mentality, he wants to stay on the pitch, and he wants to be there for his teammates. And that's when someone needs to say to him, you got to come off. It's simple as that. And Norgaard would have come on in that situation, and we'd have got a semblance of physical control back in that game. But it's what it is. That's gone. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes when the pressure's coming on, which it will do very shortly, I think we just need to simplify things. And the reason why a lot of us enjoyed the game yesterday was the fact we had speed on the outside, and we had ability to receive the ball on the inside, and people who can link in Jesus, Eze, and Saka. All of them are played wide and inside, and they can link and look after the ball. And you had Martinelli, who I thought was excellent, and Madueke giving you raw speed on the outside. And it was very, very simple. You didn't have fullbacks popping up at centre-forward position, taking it off the centre-forward's head at the last minute against Chelsea. And we just had people doing their roles. And I think we need to put some offensive accountability on our offensive players. And I include myself here with my analysis. When Eze lets Matty Cash run off his shoulder, right? We all said, he's made a mistake. He hasn't played for a while. That's what Mikel does. No. Bollocks. Play him the next game. Because we are invested in your attacking play. And you've made a defensive mistake. I'm not saying this happened, but we all think it happened. I cannot accuse you of making a mistake and then hook you at half time and then don't play for ages. Because what you're now saying to everybody is, I care more about this than I care about us developing an attack. You know, so Eze then comes on the pitch now. He's not thinking about attacking. He's thinking about his off-the-ball duties. So I'm using that as an example. I'm extrapolating there a little bit. But I want to see, why can't we have Eze play left again when you got Declan Rice and Hincapie on that same side of the pitch? Don't you think we can afford him to maybe let go of a runner? Do you know what I mean? We're not, and Gabriel there, but right behind him. But we give him the ball there and see what could happen. I think we have to flip our mentality. Make the attackers own the attack. Be accountable. And if they let someone and they get caught on the dribble, like Eze did in this game against Wigan, he got caught on the dribble. So what? Run back and get it off them again. You know, and I think we've got to do that a lot more because we could be accused of becoming predictable. You know, and I don't want that to happen because I hate going to other podcasts trying to defend us when I know maybe deep down it's sort of true. We can be accused of being predictable. So to take that away, we have bought the players, so play them in the areas of the pitch where they can be unpredictable and do their thing. And they've all got it wired in off the ball play. Just give them a bit of responsibility.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I just do think because, look, we are obsessives about Arsenal. That's why we're all here. When you're obsessive about your club, you can lose sight of the macro factors that are happening around you at other clubs too. And I think it is fair to say we may be predictable. We may be a little boring in attack, or we may be less effective in attack than we'd like to be. We have to acknowledge that the entire league has shifted, that the ball is in play less, that set pieces are more emphasized, that open play XG is down. It is not just us, but we are top of the table. So how we play gets the most focus, and we are Arsenal obsessives. So we focus on ourselves the most. But we must look at the fact that in a season where that dynamic is true, we are top of the table, and we have found a way to navigate this new dynamic more effectively than other teams. I do want to talk about Wolves. I think there's an interesting table dynamic that we need to address. I do want to talk a bit about Mosquera and Myles Lewis-Skelly in this game. So I think there's a couple things there, and come back to Bukayo Saka on the interior and whether that's an option for the Wolves game and how that impacts things. But I know you're saying, Elliot, you are back. And with you being back, really the only thing we care about is the brands. That's what we want. We want you to tell us about brands. And I am here to tell you that I have just the brands for you, my friends. One of them is NordVPN. I just used NordVPN on my holiday. I would not have been able to watch Arsenal without NordVPN. Would not have been able to watch Arsenal. And in fact, the big NFL game, the Super Bowl thingy, would not have been able to watch that either. I did watch it. It was terrible. Enjoyed Bad Bunny, though. But with NordVPN, you put an app on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer, you click browse where you want to browse, and instantly you are watching the videos that would otherwise be geo-locked to you. It's that simple. There's threat protection as well, so if you go on dodgy websites, and let's face it, who doesn't like a dodgy website from now and then? Occasionally you just see a web link, you're like, that's probably dodgy, I want to click it. You get that urge, like, I just want to click it, I want to see where it goes. But with NordVPN, you can click it. Click all the dodgy websites. Well, maybe not all of them. You know what? Use to your discretion. Point is, NordVPN, it is the VPN to use, high speed, great quality, and we have a great value for you because you get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee when you go to nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. That's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And this is a paid advertisement for BetterHelp. BetterHelp is therapy. That simple. It is therapy. They make it easy to get matched with a qualified therapist. They make it easy to get into the process of doing therapy. And therapy is health. It's not just mental health, it's health. And we don't talk about mental health much. For some reason, there's still a stigma. I think that stigma is coming down, but we have to continue to bring it down because there are more challenges to our mental health than ever before. You know, I wouldn't know these lovely gentlemen here without social media. Social media has brought things into my life that I value. I think it has also brought things into our life that make it hard to unplug, hard to turn off, hard to disconnect, and hard to battle feelings of anxiety or isolation or loneliness or worry. BetterHelp is therapy. You can do it. There are over 30,000 therapists. It's one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, having served 5 million people globally, and it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on 1.7 million client reviews. So BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/ArsenalVision. That's betterhelp.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And I know what you're thinking. I would love to sell my products. I just don't know how. How can you not know how when I am here to tell you about Shopify? How dare you sit there not selling your products that are so wonderful and belong in the hands of people that would love them? You need to, and 2026 is your year to do it. Shopify makes it easy. You pick the pictures, you write the descriptions, you upload them, and you're done. You get a professional looking website. Shopify handles things like taxes and shipping and cart optimization. It'll tell people, hey, you left something in your cart. Do you want to check out? Or, hey, looks like you're buying this. This could go really well with that. It will also put you on the TikTok shop and the Facebook shop and the Instagram shop and all the places you need to be to reach all the people that want your great products. Fortune 500 companies use Shopify, but you can use Shopify even if you are not a Fortune 500 company. And if you are a Fortune 500 company, congratulations. That's wonderful for you. But either way, you can use Shopify. In 2026, stop waiting and start selling with Shopify. Cha-ching! Sign up for a $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision. That's shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Hear your first cha-ching this new year with Shopify by your side. Clive, is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Nailed it. You did. You nailed it. You really nailed it. Clive, I have to say that all caveats in place, all Crapatron caveats in place about the opposition. Every time I watch Christian Mosquera, I just think this player plays beyond his experience, plays beyond his age. He physically looks imposing. He's technically at the level. He seems to be very comfortable with what he's doing. His recovery tackle in this game was good. He obviously made a huge error in the last game, but made a sensational recovery challenge there too. All he needs is a little experience, but everything else is in his game. I thought he was imperious once again, albeit against bottom of League One opposition.
Yeah, he's a good player, Elliot. And
okay, moving on.
Yeah, again, look at his season as a whole. How we've trusted him on the ball a lot has been really key, for a young player. He's played left and right, but he ends up a lot as central centre-back, and he's really looking after the ball quite nicely. Sometimes he drops off to the midfielder nearest to him, which I would do too if I'm 21 playing in the league. But yeah, I think he's really showing some really raw potential. Incredibly quick, decent in the air, really ferocious in his one-on-ones. He gets really tight around the player and makes sure he forces him away from goal. Just full of potential. And whenever he plays, none of us worry, do we? We don't think, oh, it's going to be not as good. Obviously, you can never be as good as the first two. Not for me anyway. I think their balance is just perfect, and everything looks calmer. I tell you, although Saliba's really important to me, how we play. I think Big Gabby has had a sensational season. But when Saliba's not there, we just look like a ship just rocking in the wind. We might not.
Saliba's like our six. He really is. Yeah. He starts all of our build-up. It's incredible.
Yeah, and he just settles everything down. So I think Saliba with anybody looks quite good, but with Mosquera, I think he looked really good. Gabby and Mosquera, I think there's a little bit more dash and thrashing about a little bit. Maybe they're quite similar in profiles, for what they like to do, and so. And they got stretched out. Hey, look, you're looking at Wigan, you're looking at a really good Brentford team, and so the pressure was different. But yeah, he's a really good player. And also, I think he can play right back as well. Obviously, he's done that for small periods of a game. So again, he's another lockdown player, potentially late in the game, to really lock it down. And he can obviously roll into a back five as well if we need to. I think he's well trusted by the manager. And I said on the IR that we got Saliba potential here. And think about it, right? He's 21. First season, Saliba's 24 now, 25. Okay, he's been brilliant at the moment he stepped here, but this guy has got that little potential, isn't he? And you think where Gabby is now at 27, 28, and he's 21. He's got real potential.
Yeah, and he's sensational. 80 of 83 passing in this game. Saliba was 78 of 83. So 96 and 94%. Now, Saliba had 12 passes in the final third versus Mosquera's 6. But yeah, just on the ball, no issues whatsoever. I should mention, because we're not going to spend any time on it, just a huge congratulations to Marley Salmon and to Tommy Setford. And I think a class move by Mikel Arteta. People joking around and pulling out his old quote from a few years back when he said his biggest regret in football is that he didn't sub a keeper. Well, he did sub a keeper. Congrats to Mikel. He's checked off that one regret, but I thought that was a class move to get Setford on. I love the way he spoke about Setford and that he deserved it with his attitude and his application. And Marley Salmon, obviously a huge talent. We have a monthly Academy pod with Will Balsam that'll be coming up Probably not this week because of the midweek game, but next week. So look out for that on Patreon. But yeah, we'll definitely be talking about Marley Salmon, I'm sure, along with some other players. And Max Dowman must be close to getting back as well, too. So be exciting to see him again. I want to move on from the Mosquera conversation, Tim, though, and just quickly talk about Myles Lewis-Skelly. And this is a tough one because when Myles gets on the ball and drives forward, I mean, he is a special talent. What he does on the ball is unique. He had a shot in this game that I thought was a pretty well struck shot. Sometimes I think he's better at playing the ball between center back and full back than some of our attacking midfielders. I mean, he may be an attacking midfielder, that's why. But Mikel Arteta has definitely shown that he's a manager that certain moments stick in his mind and affect how he trusts you and how he uses you. And in that respect, I do think that moment where he picked up an unnecessary card, he commits a foul, he gives away a free kick, and then on that free kick, potentially could have gotten himself sent off with a second yellow and a penalty giveaway, but Wigan were offside. Now I have to say, they didn't show replay, at least on the stream that I was watching. So I don't know if it was a penalty, but there was a big shout. The commentators were saying it was a penalty. And had it been a penalty, it could have been a sending off. And in a game like that, the last thing you need is the excitement of going down to 10 men and gifting them a goal when a clean sheet would have just been the tonic for us. So you do worry that moments like that are just going to stick in the manager's mind. So as much as I'm encouraged by what he does on the ball, and I love his talent, do you worry that little moment there of the foul and the subsequent potential penalty giveaway is the kind of thing that just gets you in the doghouse with Mikel?
Yeah, but I think it has to have, excuse me, it has to have started before then because he bought Hincapié, and none of us were really saying let's go. In fact, loads of people were joking about buying left backs because of the abundance of them that we have. And by the way, I've just seen that Zinchenko's out for 6 or 7 months with a knee injury, which is really unfortunate for him. But I
think it was his first game for Ajax that he was playing, and
had
a bad injury.
But yeah, with Lewis-Skelly, like the fact that he brought in a left back kind of shows that he must have seen those doubts were there. It's beginning to feel a little bit Emile Smith-Rowe to me, where like it's just clear that Arteta always had doubts about Smith-Rowe being like an absolutely elite level talent. And, it could be that, like Lewis-Skelly is a midfielder or whatever, but how's he getting in there? Like he's a left central midfielder. Well, that's Declan Rice's role. It's Mikel Merino's role. It's Kai Havertz's role. Like, I don't think
Ezra's role.
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a path there either, to be honest. So I do worry a bit. He's got time on his side. Like he's 19. Sure. He's got plenty of time on his side, and he's another one who maybe in the summer we look at and go, do you know what? Go somewhere, play on loan, figure out what your position is, where you're more comfortable, and by the time you come back, Merino might be like 31, 32, something like that, and the path might present itself. It might not. And even with the Mosquera conversation, like I hate to bring this up because no one wants to hear it, myself included, and I very much know that like big squads are the way forward and all of that, but you can see us getting some money basically in the next few years. I said, didn't I, like you can't have Ødegaard, Dalman, Nwaneri and Saka in the next 2 years. That's coming up, but that means we'll get some money. And this is another place where we might get some money and we might be able to regenerate and do stuff that we haven't really been able to do over the last couple of years, so that maybe the manager and the sporting director don't have to keep sheepishly knocking on Josh Kroenke's door and saying, can we just have another, can we just please sir, can I have one more left back, And so we might be able to do that kind of regeneration thing. And that's kind of a scary thing to talk about, because as much as we're all a bit fraught at the moment, I think we largely like all of our players, and the idea of letting any of them go feels wrong and scary. But it does feel like things are trending in the wrong direction for Myles Lewis-Skelly. I think it would have just been so much better for him yesterday if he'd been able to play in midfield. He probably would have balled out against the team who are a bit rubbish. He probably would have put in like a nice through ball or something. And today, that's what we'd be talking about. We wouldn't be talking about Saka on the interior. We'd be talking about, maybe we wouldn't be talking about Norgaard. And it's just one of those little kind of
sliding doors
moments potentially, because he gets another booking here. That was a problem for him last season, picking up, all right, one nonsense red card. But nevertheless, that was a booking, that it should have been a booking. It was a red card at Wolves, and we're not doing we don't do a lot of that. We don't do a lot of, oh my God, I'm so out of position. I have to just wrap this guy's legs away from him. And yeah, I am a bit worried for Myles.
Here's the thing. First of all, and I do want to bring in on this, Clive, but I just have a couple quick thoughts. One is, we can afford to be sentimental. The club can't, right? Unfortunately, that's the reality of the business. So we can love all of our academy players and want all of our academy players to not only break into the side, but play a lot and be stars for a winning Arsenal. That's the right thing for a fan to feel, by the way. You should feel an affection for your academy players because they've been part of the club since they're a small child, and they have an affection for the club. So that's a natural feeling. There are times when academy players move on where it is absolutely the best for everyone. And the one that jumps to mind for me is Alex Iwobi. Alex Iwobi is a phenomenal Premier League player who has had a fantastic Premier League career. He was good for Arsenal. He played well for us. We then got a good fee for him. It's one of our biggest fees we've gotten in like the last decade. And he's gone on to have a great career at Fulham where he's been excellent. And I've enjoyed watching it. Would I have preferred Alex Iwobi starred for Arsenal? Sure, but Arsenal went on to be very good, and so did he. So it's not always the end of the world when this stuff happens. It is the question for a player of, is their position and their skill set a fit for the squad construction that's happening at the club? And at the moment, Tim, I am extremely bullish on Myles' talent. I am not as bullish on Myles' path to fitting the squad construction that we have put in place, especially with the Nketiah signing. I agree with that. So, Clive, for what it's worth, the irony is I thought he was great in this game on the ball. But that moment that I referenced is the kind of thing that, knowing Mikel Arteta, he's going to come away with. And I will say just one more thing on Mikel. When he was asked about Myles' performance, he said, no, that was another learning moment, right? That was the first thing he said. Then he went on to say how he had to be fair to Myles, had to shift from thinking he was going to be playing in midfield to playing fullback. But it is a learning moment. What do you think about this? A player whose talent is beyond question, by the way. I just want to make sure I emphasize that.
Yeah, so pathway first. I think Nketiah was brought as a centre-back, but I actually feel he's better as a left-back. And that's caused Myles a problem. We have 4 lefty defenders, 4 righty defenders. Myles is the most junior defender of 8. So situations have changed. Whereas last year he was a very important player due to injury in that position. In the warm-up in this game, we lost our left-back. So let's not pretend that he will not get a game time, because he will, right? Because he played with 3 days. 3 days ago, Eze was 17 touch Eze. In this game, he's 74 touch, whatever it was. Things can change very, very quickly. I think even in this game, Mosquera dropped into the left-back in the second half. We went like a 3-2 like we did last year in build-up. And Myles, his best periods came when he was in the interior on the left-hand side, like he did last year as a left 6. I look at his game as a fullback, and I said it on the IR yesterday, so apologies for repeating it. There's some technical things that are not working at the moment, and just one thing that's not working, and that's he's hesitating before he goes and does things. And that fraction of hesitation creates separation, which means you're not in control of the duel, which means you are now reacting to the forward. Just look at Timber, the way he defends. Mate, he does not give the forward a chance. He just tears through him. Just gets the ball, just tears through him, just manhandles him. Didn't give him a chance to turn around, look up, look at a teammate. He's just gone. The ball's going to his feet. He's sprinting 100 miles, committing to the challenge. I'm going to get there before the ball even reaches your feet. And he's going the other way. And he just needs to get that back into his game, because he was doing that last year, and I haven't forgotten it. He was doing that last year against the very best defenders in Europe. At the moment, he's hesitating and he's not in control of his one-on-ones. And it's just a simple thing. And you can see it in his face. He's lacking a little bit of confidence in his all-round ability, and he's looking for a pathway, and he's wondering where he fits in the squad. And you sort of know when you're not flavour of the month, and you sort of play like it, so I think he's just feeling a bit of a struggle at the moment, but he's very, very young. He's 19, and if he takes time to come in and plays well, fine. If he doesn't, then he won't be here anymore. But that's the same for others. I think we're going to see a mini revolution anyway in the summer. It's definitely going to be sell to buy job, and potentially him and Ethan could go. We don't know what the business plan is going forward. We don't know who we're trying to get. But we have to be comfortable with that. For me, Elliot, the only thing that drives the pathway is your performance.
Yeah.
And where we started this conversation about Noni Madueke, if he wasn't playing well, none of us would talk about moving Saka inside. None of us would. Because he's playing well, he's creating a pathway for himself against our franchise player. So, and if Myles plays well, whether it's left back or in midfield, he will move out of Marino. He will move out of Calafiori like he did last year, by the way. And he'll just move them out. So the first brick in the wall is get your performance right. And let the manager decide your pathway. But when your performance isn't right, then you won't play. And even Calafiori and Hincapi, who's number one left back at the moment? Probably Hincapi, do you think? Maybe he's edging it?
Not for me, but if you can't show that you can stay fit, you can't be the first choice.
I think he's edging it. Right now, I think he's edging it. Right? So in the last game against Brentford, we chose one.
Yeah.
Right? So and he's done that himself by playing brilliant against Chelsea in the home leg in the League Cup semi-final. He was magnificent in that game. So he's changing minds, creating his pathway. So don't think that Myles can't do the same. He's just got to rebuild his game.
Yeah, it is the case too. I think for any of us that were educated on Arsenal post-Invincibles, where that was our primary adult connection to Arsenal, we very rarely had the money to spend to buy stars, to build a squad, the likes of which we have now. And so any young player that had any talent had a pretty easy pathway. And we got very attached to our young players, and they wound up being very important for an Arsenal that rarely competed for the big things, unfortunately. If you are a team that is regularly competing for the big things, odds are there may only be one, maybe two places in a squad for an academy player to find a way in and find a pathway and play their way in. The odds that your academy is going to produce title contending caliber talent regularly is very, very rare. And I mean, we have a lot of it. We should be very, very proud of the talent we have. But even still, you look at the level and it's very, very high. So, Clive.
Can I just add, just to add to that, because you're absolutely right. Last year we talked about Ethan and Max, and by the way, we went to season before last, and none of us were thinking they were going to be that prominent at that particular time.
Nope.
So they came through last year and were part of a team that came second and played in Champions League semi-final. And this year, potentially we're looking at a couple of 16-year-olds in Marley Salmon and Max Dowman. So next year now, they're going to have a more prominent position in the squad. And again, in this game, looking at Marley Salmon at right back and centre back in one game, we've seen Max play on right wing, but we all know he's going to end up as a centre mid one day. It's very exciting, right? So let's see what we do.
And I have to admit, look, I loved the Ethan loan. Go play for De Zerbi, go get a lot of minutes. Now De Zerbi's gone. Now who knows what the minutes look like. Marseille look like they're imploding. They've got, leadership changes potentially coming. So let's hope for some stability at Marseille for Ethan's sake so we can get back on the pitch and play. Because otherwise that loan's not going to look great, unfortunately. Tim, I think we can move on to a quick preview of Wolves here. Just any comments you want to make about the sort of end stage of this game? It played out the way you kind of expect. Look, I got a lot of eyeball emojis sent to me at 4-0 at 30 minutes, right? People thinking, here comes the 10-0. It didn't play out that way. Gyökeres came on. He wasn't a huge factor. He hit the post once. But, you do go into conserve energy mode. You have bigger fish to fry, and it's hard to stay super connected to what's happening out there. So any end of the game thoughts, or kind of played out the way you'd expect?
It played out exactly as I expected. Actually, Wigan switched as well, didn't they? Like, they went from a back five to a back four. I mean, the game was over at that point anyway. Like, this game really, we're talking about experimentation and stuff like that. Like, these sorts of cup games are like a one-up from a training game. Sometimes they'll play it behind closed doors, pre-season friendly, like an intra-squad friendly. And this almost looked like one-up from that. Like I'm really curious about what happens in those intra-squad friendlies that they usually do in pre-season or during I was going to say a lull period. When do those happen? But they sometimes do them like with international breaks. If there are enough players who haven't gone on international break, you might be able to do that. And they probably do crazy stuff like, let's try this guy, like as a number 8 or whatever. So it felt a bit like that. But I think I put in our group, at 4-0, I said something like we could get the 10-0. And immediately afterwards I said, this will finish 4-1. Because that's what happens in these games. So, No, I mean, Gyökeres coming on, I'm sure he'd love to have been on for that first half an hour to kind of fill his boots. I've got a couple of mates who've got a bet about him getting 20 goals this season. So one of them was delighted he didn't start. And the other one was absolutely raging because he reckons he'd have got there, in that first half an hour alone. But not a lot of other conclusions, other than I think Eze really wanted to score a goal as well. You said he had 6 shots. Yeah. I wager that most of those were in the last 20 minutes. He fancied a goal, didn't he? And great, because he got his assists and he wanted to make a statement. Brilliant. That is exactly what I want from a player who perhaps isn't getting the minutes he wants.
The one where it was most obvious was when he drove right through into the box. He took it to the top of the box and then drove past guys and slammed it into the side netting. If he wanted to, he could have slid it across probably 3 different open Arsenal players. He's like, nah, I'm taking a shot. He wanted his goal. Probably frustrated not to get it, but it was still a great game for him. The draw happens a few hours after we record this, by the way, so obviously we can't touch on that. I would personally like non-league at the Emirates. Thank you very much. But, it will be obviously Newcastle away while Man City get Mansfield. So that's what it's going to be, Newcastle away while Man City get Mansfield. That's how this works. I do think there's some interesting stuff with the Wolves game. And they've been better under Rob Edwards. We really need to accept that they've been better under Rob Edwards and approach that game as professionally and focused as possible, but they have not been free scoring, and I do think it's an opportunity to try Saka on the interior again. I want to mention that, but here's an interesting dynamic. City do not play midweek, and City's rearranged Palace game, we don't know when it is going to be, but it could be pushed all the way into May with their schedule being how it is. This is a unique opportunity to go 7 up. And then if we stay game for game with City, stay 7 up. Now they will have a game in hand, but psychologically, I do think that is relevant. I think to get it to 7 and keep it at 7 would be a very big thing to have, depending on their Palace game, potentially being moved all the way into May when their only opportunity to catch up is, let's say they're, 6 back with 3 to play, and they've got to play a midweek game against Palace as their game in hand. It could be really psychologically helpful that we play this Wolves game when we do, so we can stretch the lead back to 7 and keep that lead feeling that way. So a big game. Clive, I just wonder, Mikel said you could see it again. Could Saka play on the interior again? And I'll give you a couple of quotes on this. And I want to hear from you what you think it adds. By the way, I should have mentioned one last detail. Sorry. Ben White, who came off and there were some rumors of an injury, posted on Instagram, good win, no injuries. Because if he knew he's like, don't you slander me that way. I am fit and I'm ready to go. But on Bukayo Saka offering central positions, what Mikel said, and I think this is so interesting, well, he's more central. He's closer to the goal. It's a bit more difficult for the opponent to get his reference constantly. He can interchange positions with the wide player as well, and he's so good at picking those spaces. When he's there, he can really hurt you with the ball. I just think getting Bukayo Saka into positions where it is harder for the opposition to know where he's going to pop up and make sure that they have him double and triple covered every time is a huge, huge opportunity to exploit. So I'd love to see it again. What do you think? Will we see it again? What could we do against Wolves?
Yeah, we could do lots of things. We can go back to the Trossard, Eze, Saka thing on right wing, and then Gyökeres up front, Mendy right, and Hincapi left back, and Timber right back with the centre backs. We could do that.
You don't think Martinelli has pushed himself into the frame? I thought he was good.
I really think he's good, but he did 92 minutes, and we know how it works, right? So, so we know what's coming. And Trossard was jogging around doing little shake and bakes and step overs, and just to make sure he doesn't have to train today.
He's tenacious.
Yeah,
he's really tenacious.
He's done really well. There's so many things you could do with this attack, right? And I believe. I believe strongly in relationships. And Trossard and Gyökeres have got a really good relationship. Everyone's talking about that third midfielder. Why can't Trossard do it from the inside and Eze from the left? Just swap it around, just rotate a little bit. And I just think it's important that if we're losing Eze in the interior, then move Trossard inside. He's wide, he can drop in. He knows our system a lot more. And Eze he's got a free path to just get his touches off the left-hand side. I'm just not wed to anything at the moment. But I just know we as a club have got to do better with these attackers, we do. And Wolves are playing like a back three a lot more these days, and they're preparing for next year. You can tell when they sold Strand Larsen that they're getting ready for next year. I think did they buy Adam Armstrong? Did they buy him? I think which is if I think I got that right, the ex-player from Southampton, who is the classic get you out of the Premier League, get you out of the Championship into the Premier League player, but can't score in the Premier League, but really good in the Championship. So they've already bought him for next season. So they're preparing, but obviously it's Arsenal. It's where everyone's cup final at the moment, as Brentford was alluded to that. And so they're going to play their game, like looking for a bit of glory, and we're the team. So, but we're strong, we're fresh, we're fit. I think we should be all right, Elliot. Otherwise, it's an emergency podcast.
I have to say, to me, Wolves away, to this day, the fixture that comes to mind for me is, of course, the David Luiz penalty, red card sending off game. It's the one that comes to mind for me. But Tim, it's a perfect game to try things with the attack, I think, because Wolves have been better, but they have not been free scoring. I mean, they got 3 against West Ham, but other than that, I think they have 2 goals in their last 6 Premier League fixtures. So it's a case of needing to break them down once again. And you know how this team's going to set up. It's not going to be about adventurousness. By the way, Rob Edwards has given us trouble too. I mean, Luton gave us trouble amazingly. Was that a 4-3? I want to say.
Yeah.
At Luton. So, he's a good manager. I rate what he does. I think they will be organized. Is this the game to tinker away with that attack and see how you can juice a little more out of it against a team that maybe poses less threat?
Could be, yeah. I think there's a few things about the way Wolves play. First off, Wolves have had this kind of weird thing ever since they got promoted. They got promoted with a back 5, and every single manager they have tries to go to a back 4. It doesn't work, and they go back to a back 5. In the last game, this is one of the things that worries me about this fixture. If you remember the last time we played Wolves, they got their arses handed to them on TV by Man United 4-1.
Yep.
Well, last time out, they got pretty badly beaten by Chelsea as well. And they tried a back 4 for the first time under Rob Edwards. So Rob Edwards has gone through the rite of passage every Wolves manager goes through of trying to go to a back 4, realising it doesn't work and going back to a back 5. So what are they going to do? They've been opened up with a more open system against a good team. So what are they going to do against us? I mean, there's really no prizes for guessing.
They're going to do what they did at the Emirates, right? I mean, it worked well enough and nearly got them a result. So
yeah, and also they don't really engage in terms of the press, and they don't really pass out from the back either. So like trying to force turnovers against them, I think is kind of less of a tactic. If he were fit, for example, this is probably not a game where you play Merino, for example, right? It's like there's not going to be a lot of turnovers. They're going to get it, they're going to boot it, and then they're not going to put pressure on it. They're just going to sit, basically. So I do think there is something to perhaps trying to find that solution and just trying to surprise them a little bit by going with something a little bit different. And even there is even value in the fact that Rob Edwards will be having this conversation probably literally right now. What do we do if they play Saka there? What do we do if they drop Ezra a bit deeper? What do we do if they do those things, which hopefully at the very least even like confuses their preparation a bit, which I don't think we've probably done to a team for a little while, like really confuse them in preparation. To be fair, what do managers say about us? We're good at everything, no matter what you do, type thing. So I think this could be a game to look for a more inventive solution. But again, maybe even from the bench, maybe even for like the last 30 minutes, if we're not winning or not winning well.
Yeah, I love the idea of putting Saka there again and having Nani able to create the chaos from the right. I think it gets Saka closer to Gyökeres if you want to start him. And I do think Saka has that little slip ball in behind. And if Gyökeres drives to the goal and brings defenders with him, Saka on his left foot at the top of the box, that's a goal. That's a goal. And that's the goal we've needed him to have. And I think that's a perfect little trio. Nani on the right, Saka in the pocket, and Gyökeres sort of running the channels and running off the shoulder of the last defender. I love that as a concept. I think you could play Eza off the left. Look, I know I've been begging for a long time, but I think we are built to get the ball to the players on the wings. And if he can drift in from the left and be at the corner, the corner of the box, the half space at the top of the box, and operate in that zone, again, I also think he can be devastating there. That's no disrespect intended to Leo Trossard. I just think Leo is extremely tenacious and effective in a lot of ways, but the end product side of his game has waned a bit. And I do think you want, not whether you want or not, I think you're going to see Zubamendi and Rice play. So it's really what happens in those positions. I would go for Calafiori, whether or not the manager feels similarly. The fact that he was going to start against Wigan suggests that maybe he's already planning on Nketiah. But what I would say is that whether you think Nketiah has moved a bit past him, I think there is no comparison in terms of on-the-ball effectiveness. I think Calafiori is still a unique talent on the ball and can provide goals when he's fit. I'd prefer to see him. So, Clive, any thoughts on that gobbledygook that I just spat out for about 4 minutes?
Calafiori that we saw at the start of the season, where he was just without peer. The one since he done his injury, I think his pre-warm-up might have been Brighton. I don't know why I'm saying that. But he done the last warm-up injury. Then he done this one again. 2 warm-up injuries. I mean, come on. So I think Nketiah will play. I don't mind Eze off the left, but I think we have to see it in stages. And I think if Saka plays inside, I think we might see Martinelli come on the right. I think he's done really, really well. We have options. I think in the first couple of goals we scored against Wigan, they were surprises to me. A no-look pass to a right winger running off the side. We haven't done that for a long time, and the second goal was a thing of beauty, right? It's straight into Eze, turn left foot, unbalanced, straight down the side. Martinelli found the left foot that he didn't find against Forest and against Brentford. That left foot cross shot, side netting. Where's that gone? Where's that been? It's just like, come on, man. I need you to do that when he's under pressure. So yeah, let's see what we do. I just want to see us balanced. And I think the Wigan game showed us a balance that maybe we hadn't thought of. Speed on the outside, physicality on the outside, and make sure you have brains on the inside that you can find. If we do that, we'll be fine.
Yeah, what do you think, Clive, about the idea that we could put ourselves 7 up? And again, look, I don't know, the City Palace game could get rescheduled to much sooner than I'm saying, but you look at the windows, there's not a lot of windows for them. So it could get pushed back quite a bit now. Do you think that's an advantage psychologically to just be able to have the number be 7 and to hold that? Because we could theoretically go all the way to the Etihad instead of it being 4, with it being 7. And I get that there's a game in hand, but it just, I think psychologically that would be a boost for us. Do you agree?
I totally agree. And let's be honest, right? We got this game against Wolves and we got Spurs. And we're all thinking, if we get 6 points on these next 2 away games, it's on. And Man City they're thinking, sort of 4 points ahead. But we'll probably beat them at the Etihad. So that's 1 point. That's what they're thinking. And Spurs might do something against them, like Brentford might did. And so, you know what? We've got them. We've added a new centre-back. We've added a new forward. At the start of the season, we were worried about a goalkeeper, James Trafford, so we added a goalkeeper. And we just plugged the gaps to make us much more formidable when now we've got everybody back. They've got everybody back, but their form is not much better than ours consistently. So they just got the break against Liverpool none of us expected, right? So it's on. It's all on. But if we win the next 2 away games, I think it does put the pressure onto them. Let's see how they react.
Yeah, I mean, the narrative of Arsenal bottling it or crumbling, all the stuff that the media and City, to be fair, will be desperate to push on us. When the lead is 7, even with a game in hand, 7 sounds like a big gap, and I do think psychologically that makes it harder to spin it the way that they want to spin it. And if we can hold a gap like that going into the Etihad, that would be massive is my view. What would be really nice too, though, and I don't know if you guys agree, this is sort of me, is if we win our games and then City lose all their games and the gap becomes like 18 or 21 points. That would be good. But maybe that's asking a bit much. I don't know. Your mileage may vary. I think we've taken this as far as we can. Predictatron tomorrow will tell us what the final gap will be. How exciting is that? Come join us. Saliba50 is the code. For a few quid, you get a pod every day, basically. You get instant reactions after every game. You're going to get rewatches. And by the way, the rewatches and the scouting videos will come back. Oh, Clive, there's this. Is there a guy at Red Bull we're linked with?
Oh,
What's
the winger.
The winger.
Yeah, Jan something, can't remember his second name.
Yeah.
Are we linked with him? Everyone's linked with him, mate. He's been shopped around. Don't worry about that.
You sure? You sure? I mean, is this a guy we want? No?
Yeah, he's
What's
nice.
his name?
He's nice. Plays left.
Jan Diamande.
Yeah, he plays left and right. Manchester United like him as well. So That's what I've read.
Okay, well, maybe we'll do a scouting video of him. If you're not seeing a scouting video, we're going to True Scouting platform. We show all the footage, the good and the bad, not the YouTube comps, and you'd love it. I know you'd love it because I know you and I love you and I know what you love and you would love it. So please come be a part of it or stay here. It's all fine. But, and this is important, please restrict the number of messages you send to me begging for Phil back hosting the pod. That is all I am asking of you on this special day. Predictatron tomorrow, instant reaction Wednesday, main pod Thursday, Friday Night Clive Friday, and it all kicks off again over the weekend as we will be in Dallas to watch the NLD with some wonderful Dallas area and other area Gooners. I can't wait. I'm excited. I hope you are too. Clive, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tim, thank you, sir.
My pleasure as always.
My name is Elliot Smith. Block me on Twitter. And we love you. And we will talk after Arsenal 10 Wolves now.